makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. On today's episode, I'm thrilled to talk with Ebony Kirby-Hopkins, founder of Match Business Advisors. Ebony's upbringing in a diverse and multicultural family inspired her to see the world beyond black and white, and her passion for helping others led her to cultivate over 15 years of experience in human resources, operations, and finance management. In July 2020, she founded Match Business Advisors to assist startups, nonprofits, and small to medium-sized businesses. Join me as Ebony shares her story and insights on how to elevate small businesses in your community. Good morning, Ebony. Welcome and thank you for taking the time to have this conversation with me. I'm very excited to learn more about your business and all the great things you have been doing.
Thank you so much.
So can you tell us more about your background and how it has influenced your work in Match Business Advisors?
Yeah, that's a great question. Background, one of 10 kids. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, so we have every single thing here. I started my career early in operations management. I actually went to school to become a nurse because I wanted to help people, but realizing not only that it would take a long time to be a nurse, but also that I had an aversion to bandages and shots, I said, okay, there's got to be another way to help people. So outside of that, I learned that I had a head for numbers. I really enjoyed watching, Squawk Box and different things on Wall Street. And so I started my career early in working in investment. So I worked for, on the administrative and operations side, places like Think Equity, a little stint at Barclays. It was pretty fun. And then realizing also that there was also an environment that wasn't necessarily keen to women and women of color. I actually went back to school after an incident of being harassed at work to get my human resources certification. So that, along with the head for numbers in finance, kind of drew me into where I am today at Mesh Business Advisors, being the managing principal and founder.
Wow, this is amazing. You love numbers and I want to run away from numbers. They give me a headache.
The one thing in the world that makes sense. Everything adds up. Pretty cool.
That's true. That's true. That's the reason why we need people like you, not people like me, because some of us don't like numbers. So now, when was that? What inspired you to start your own business?
No, that's a wonderful event. It was during 2020 when the world was basically at home, and I was still working. I had gotten the non-for-profit bug and was doing a bunch of nonprofit work in Brooklyn, actually, and I was the administrative operations manager, utilizing human resources, finances, and operations to help for the greater good in the nonprofit space. One day, I was actually coming home. This was kind of sort of pre-COVID height. And we were all home, went to the corner store, and one of the wonderful, bodegas that we have in Brooklyn that kind of makes Brooklyn the way it is, they were pretty successful and doing a lot of work. They went to their local SBA to get a loan. They'd been doing fine, and they figured SBAs were actually the place to go for guidance and, low interest rates and all that wonderful stuff. Unfortunately, the SBA that they went to was more concerned with getting referrals and kickbacks on that end, and kind of set them up with a construction firm that actually didn't do the work to the quality that they needed. They paid for it. I know they paid for the work. Wow. And the work subsequently was under par. They, received summons from the city and different things like that. I was a patron there. It was literally in my, neighborhood. This was a place where I frequented, got my coffee before I rushed off on the train. So understanding the business end, but also realizing that I could be a resource because I knew of different programs, different grants to help small businesses. I realized that there was a need to help underrepresented small businesses. Remember, most of these businesses are just trying to, make a wage. They're family owned. So many of them are trying to be a legacy bit for their
Yes.
children. And they're also they know their neighbors. They live basically in the communities that they serve. So unfortunately, when one of these goes down, many people are forced to rely on bigger box stores, which then control the pricing and pushes many of these firms out. So realizing that I could help, I started Mesh Business Advisors to become a linchpin not only for community-based stores and underrepresented people in our community, but also farther reaching because there are many places across the US that actually fit into that box. Women owned, minority owned,
Yes.
passion projects that many people are just trying to get off the ground and make a success of.
Yes, I completely agree with you in that, and it's sad that you will think that in 2023 we will not as minorities we will not face that type of issues, but we are still facing it. So now, when you say that you represent them, can you go more into details and how do you represent them?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started, I just wanted to see if I could make a go at it. So I was praying, let me at least get 2 customers that I can add value to, people that I can make an impact with. So I have small organizations now, over 60 clients later, that are not only in the nonprofit space, but we also have schools that we help. Breweries, startup companies in different facets. And also, again, because we haven't left that passion project of that mission statement of helping underrepresented as well as community-based businesses. All across the US, we actually have small women startup businesses such as dog walking services, nonprofits that actually help women get access to medical services. So many things that actually help the community at large. We're also helping other businesses that don't necessarily fit in that box, businesses that we want to make a go with, because we also do human resources. So only because a startup is scrappy enough to move ahead and actually get, an IP term sheet. Sometimes they don't have the human resources guidance that they would necessarily need, but they want to. So we also help on behalf of employees who the company wants to do right by. So whether that's compliance, governance and guidance, or just trying to get the employee engagement and culture up, we actually do that. And I'm really proud to say that as of right now, we're 18 women strong. So we are definitely, making sure that we represent in those areas.
So now, can you get into a little bit more details into your services? Because I know you have different type of services, especially human resources. Can you go a little bit more into what are they entail?
Yeah, absolutely. So with human resources, it's not just, we recruit for you or we go and, read your handbook and update it. A lot of human resources today, especially after COVID, are more people centric. You're not just reading a manual, right? You're not just going on and looking at a human resources information system. We're putting the human back in human resources. So that includes leadership training, understanding what that requires, the guidance on each state and how paid family leave, sick leave, and how COVID leave has changed in each state, and making sure that all employees are not only plugged into that and that the employers are also plugged in, but also even more so mental health and wellness, because that's something that should have been on our radar, but only after, BC before COVID wasn't there.
Yes.
But now after COVID, there's an even bigger support system for mental health and wellness, neurodiversity, and an acceptance of all different types. So that's the human resources piece. We're also very into making sure that even though a company is small, retention and employee engagement are up, because we're all still hybrid, and many of us we don't necessarily work with our coworkers on a daily basis. So we do want to be able to find ways as a firm, as human resource professionals, to keep that engagement going and to keep that culture alive, even when we're at home. And the other piece is finance. And finance encompasses human resources and kind of drives into different pieces. So we also do grant writing for smaller businesses as well as biz ops services. So we're also looking to make sure, your firm is running, not only correctly, if you will, but that your services are priced in a way that's market equitable. That's, you're not pricing yourself out because you're trying to undercut the competition, but also undercutting yourself. Also with training in regards to what things you should be asking for. We have businesses that are just starting off because the person loves what they do, but just doesn't like the administrative work behind it. So we're looking at contracts, making sure that they understand the process of what the difference is between a contractor and an employee, making sure that they, price not only their services, but also when to seek payment and different things like that. So we're really trying to be that full service linchpin for companies that have that passion, but not necessarily the patience to do the administrative work in business.
So when you say you support startup, do you support them at the beginning, just laying down everything? They haven't started yet, but they are working on it. Can you help them get grants, loans from that stage on, or do you wait until after they launch it?
Oh, no, that's a great question. So we actually do grant writing and we provide the assistance and guidance for, loans. We're looking over different term sheets to make sure that they understand what's going on. Because again, when you're a startup, everything is scrappy. Usually you already have a W-2 or full-time job and this is your passion and your hustle and you're trying to get that off the ground. So anything with money that comes in front of you looks enticing. And so we also try to make sure that, whatever foundations that a business has, whether it's a really good PTO policy or incentive policy, if you don't have enough money to necessarily attract that talent, is a good foundation that will set you up for the future. Many companies, unfortunately, have, golden parachutes. They have these, written in stone contracts that will only hurt them later if employee number one decides to leave because they pull them in with these grand opportunities because they thought that they had to. So really getting in on the ground floor and getting that guidance is super key to us.
So now with the grant part of it, is it just for profit companies or is it also for nonprofit?
Oh, well, first and foremost, we do a lot for nonprofit companies. So our grant writer is wonderful and amazing and really susses out not only the passions of each, nonprofit that we have, because there are some that are women focused, there are some that are veteran and certain program focused. So we make sure that we have conversations with, the executive director or the person leading the mission and understanding what their needs are, where they think they'll be in 3 to 5 years, and what they're actually looking for. Because again, not all you don't want to go out there running for all grants. That's a lot of work. It's also not necessarily something that you want to do if grants come back and say, well, okay, you got this grant. It's a restricted grant, and this is what we require of you. Because then you're kind of in a situation where you didn't necessarily know what came with that grant. And unfortunately, granted, if you want to accept it or not, but you get the point. So yeah.
Yes. So pretty much, in other words, before they even apply for that grant, you all explain them the expectation of that grant, how that grant can be used. And because I can imagine people, sometimes they don't know, they might just use it to go clothes shopping. Hey, I'm sure some people done it. Just saying. So you want to make sure you tell them that, hey, this grant if it's for staff members, this grant needs to go and pay your employees. You cannot use it for anything else within the business itself.
Correct. And a lot of times I always say that the process starts way before in the preparation phase. So it's not only, myself engaging with the nonprofit, but it's also my grant writer, my biz ops strategist. They're working hand in hand to make sure that this person not only has their finances set up to receive the grant, because a grant can hit a bank account, but if you don't necessarily have a chart of accounts, if you don't necessarily have a budget, that money will go very quickly, and your runway or how much money you have until you run out or need another grant can be gone. And a lot of times it's just all about having them set up in those certain ways. Once we have all of that set up, we then look for grants. We get a list together, which is, super wonderful because it's like a grant buffet. You pick exactly what you want. And then we go on to speak about the background of the grant and why we feel like it kind of works with that organization's mission and initiative. We go on to talk about the deadlines, making sure that we understand what is needed, because again, we're working hand in hand with that organization. So many times, if we're pulling mission statements, board minutes, we'll need their assistance on that, piece. And outside of that, they understand where we are in the process so that they can be assured and, super confirmed that everything is processing accordingly.
So now do you help them from the beginning until the end, until they actually get that grant?
Yes. And the nice part is because it's full service, we also do the grant maintenance, right? So it's writing the quarterly reports. It's also making sure that if it's a restricted grant, which means, as you said before, used for a certain purpose, that we're also tracking it by that purpose. Outside of that, if it's not restricted, we're still also tracking that grant and we're able to run the numbers in our internal systems. We do run, a whole bunch of different systems depending on the client. We have QuickBooks Pro advisors. We have certified QuickBooks people and senior bookkeepers monitoring these accounts. So anything that's, being pulled in will have a generated report by month end. So we really do try to be that full service linchpin.
Wow, that's actually awesome, because some people might not even know how to do this at all, to create the report, sending it out to the grant people. Hey, I spent that amount of money in this month. I probably wouldn't even know where to start.
Well, that's the great part about it. Knowledge is also power. We don't necessarily just do it and say it's done. We also take them through the process of what was done so that if they have any questions or don't understand something, we help them to understand. Because I like to say that it's not only my mission to help underserved persons in the communities with their passion projects, but also leave them better off than when they came. I would love to make sure that they understand, what a month-end close is, what the, budget versus actuals. Are you a cash-based business or a accrual-based business? What does your HR look like? I want to make sure that they understand, because the more any sort of business owner understands what's going on in their business, the more of the buy-in and the better the relationship. It's not just someone who's coming in and mysteriously doing your books and you're okay with that. There's a lot of trust that is involved.
Exactly. So I like what you said, because when you teach them something, they know at least they understand what it is about. So when your staff is talking to them, they have an idea of what the staff is talking about. They don't have to go to Google and try to figure because some people don't like asking questions. They might say, "Oh, got it, I understand," but they have no clue what you're talking about. They're just saying yes to you because they're embarrassed to say no to you. So I love the fact that you're teaching them.
Yeah, so true. And a lot of times, many business owners, and I've heard this before, they come into a business thinking that they have to know everything, that they have to do everything. And when they don't know something, they're scared to ask the questions, because from one professional to another, it might look like there's a chink in your armor and now I can take advantage of you. So they never want to put their guard down. We make sure that we protect them from any sort of, misunderstandings, miscommunications, and different things like that. And I also try and check in at least once a month with all of my clients on a higher level to see how they're doing as a business, to see how they're doing personally, because you just never know what a person's going through. And it also helps me and my internal team, because if I'm checking in with the owner and something's happened personally, well, that's the reason why you're not getting bank statements. That's why you're not getting responses. So it really is a full cycle communication. And many on my team, we make it our business to get back within 2 hours of someone, whether slacking, email, or calling us, because with HR and finance, you never know when something's on fire. And so even if it's just to acknowledge that we received, your request and we're working on it, or if we need more time, we make sure to do that, because there's nothing worse than sending something off into a void that you kind of need, but you're not sure if it's urgent and not getting an answer back.
I love that. Great customer service.
Thank you. We do try.
So now with your services, do you focus just within United States itself, or do you go outside of the country?
Well, we do. We actually have some customers that are UK based. There are some that are in India. So we do, international HR is also a thing. Because many American companies actually have employees that are overseas, are in satellite offices. So we do make sure that we do our due diligence and that we are compliant across all fears, if you will.
So, what makes mesh business advisors different from other consultant firms in the industry?
That's a really great question. And I think it's because we love to over communicate. It is one thing to say, here's so and so, this is done. But it's another thing to say, hey, just to set expectations, this is what we do going in. I really do try to engage with our customers when they're onboarding. We have onboarding checklists. We have internal channels that are both, broken out by human resources, finance. And even though we're a consulting firm, we're also, and I refuse to say, our company is family. No, we all have our own families. We are people that are aligned in a mission, and we're very close to what kind of goals we set for ourselves. Many of our internal consultants are moms, their grandparents. They are doing things for themselves, and they're all women, which is kind of wonderful. So we do have an internal support system. And we really do try to lean on each other. If something doesn't look right, whether it's a human resources situation, whether it's a finance that just won't balance out, we do have internal circles and support systems to help each other out. If one is really busy, we always have a secondary. So there's always someone looking at a situation, and we're always covering our customers. And that's super important to all of us.
So in another word, you love doing what you are doing, and your staff love doing what they are doing. Because of that, you guys pretty much work very well with one another and how to support the clients.
We do. And I always say, just like my mom used to say, stop doing it when it's not fun anymore. That's when you stop. So I really do try to make sure when something is wonderful, when you're engaged, when time flies and you're still just doing what you love to do, it's never work. And there are some days where it is work because it can be overwhelming. There can be situations where you need to, be serious. But for the most part, it's a wonder, and it's been quite an adventure, and I'm really happy with it. And as a, boss, if you will, I also try to make sure that I lead in a way to where I would want to have seen my boss coming up and, because unfortunately women bosses get a really bad rap. You're either one way or another way, but you can never be in between. Many bosses or leadership don't have the emotional intelligence that is required to kind of assist employees. I never want to be one of those people. And I also try not to micromanage, but I also try to be available as far as I can. Taking my own advice. So our business model is making your business our business. And that means you have a passion, but you don't necessarily have the wherewithal to do everything. You don't necessarily have a finance background. You don't necessarily know human resources or social media. We come in and we support, or as I like to say, we put a scaffolding around those pieces to protect them. So even internally, I know that I can't do everything, which is why I hire and engage people that are specialists in their own areas. And so I've taken my advice as that proof of concept that I'm trying to continually prove every day to our customers, that if we can do it internally, we can help you do it externally.
So pretty much you walk the talk. So you're not just saying it, but you're also doing it.
I really do try. Yeah, I would hope that I really do try.
So may I ask why you don't micromanaging?
So micromanaging to me, unfortunately, and I've been the victim of it, as a person coming up, when you really want to work and do, something you enjoy, it's kind of a stop motion piece. If someone's always tapping you on the shoulder, looking over, emailing you and saying, did you do this, this, and this? For the first couple of minutes, you can say, sure, yes, I did that, because then it looks like you were on it. But unfortunately, if a person keeps that same pattern of behavior, and this is me putting on my HR cap, if you continually do that, you suck the life out of the job, but you also suck the inspiration out of the person. It's really sad when you have many talented people that love what they're doing, but the micromanaging is equal to no trust. If yes. I can't trust someone to actually do what they're doing, then why were they hired? And if you're constantly looking at someone or reviewing their work, then you might as well do their work. And so forth and so on. So that's why micromanaging just never works. Either you'll get a high turnover rate, or people will be very bitter and not do their work, and then you'll have to do it for them anyway. You're kind of stuck in this repeat loop.
I never looked at it this way. So what would be your best advice for people to not, instead of doing micromanagement, what would you say for them to replace it with?
Yeah, absolutely. This is where the emotional intelligence comes in. This is also where the hiring process, as a firm, everyone hires, right? You kind of go through the motions, you recruit, you retain, you onboard. And yet many people, well, one, you make sure to give the people the tools that they need to succeed. So making sure that they're onboarded correctly, making sure that they have access to what they need to do their jobs functionally. Two, only because they have the tools needed doesn't necessarily mean that you should leave them to their own devices. Be a support system. Check in with them. Make sure that they're okay, because a person might have all the tools that they need, but there might be some external personal items that will block them from doing that. This is not to say that you necessarily have to be their friend and you have to, know the kids' names and all that. But being that support system means they can come to you whenever they feel the need, and not necessarily have to explain everything, because that can be super invasive if it is a personal situation. But let them know that there is a trust feature where if you say that I need some time off, and you're okay with it, because they'll come back better, they'll come back, stronger. And if it needs to kind of continually be something, knowing that they trust you enough to come back to you and say, hey, remember that situation where I took off? Actually, here's what's going on. Having that trust built in is important. As you build that trust, you become a better manager.
I love that. I loved it. So now, your entire team is women. May I ask why?
Yeah, so that wasn't, mind you, that was not intentional. We did, look for and hire men. It's not to say that we cannot and won't be doing that in the future. But for bookkeeping and finance and even human resources, as we, were starting to move and get bigger, we just kind of threw ourselves in different pools. And one thing that I really wanted was, as I kind of learned from previous startups that I really wanted to pick forward, was to give chances to individuals like myself who wouldn't have gotten a chance in an otherwise non-diverse pool. So this includes putting job postings on such places as the Mom Project, making sure that we give our interns a shot at universities that are historically Black or women-based, or in communities that are underrepresented. I had an alma mater, BMCC, that's Borough of Manhattan Community College in Lower Manhattan, wanting to give those students a chance to work for, an up-and-coming workplace instead of necessarily going through the avenues of Indeed or Simply Hired, because you'll find people with lots of background. So doing that, you'll get a crop of people that are, very talented, very diverse, and which is something that we definitely want. I did anyway. And, hearing their backstories and understanding like, well, why do you want to move from your job, or why are you looking now? And giving that chance was really important to me. So I have, like I said before, we started posting on the Mom Project. We started also posting on Upwork just to see what type of individuals, because many individuals are finding side hustles on Upwork. And there's a great pool of talent there, as well as on Freelancer and Freelancing Female. Understanding, like, hey, this is something that I want to see happen. You never know what type of dreams you can spark when you bring someone in and they realize, like I did way back, like, hey, I thought I wanted to go this way, but I'm going this way. And you find so much success and purpose in that way.
I love it. I love the fact, don't get me wrong, I am, as you can, Womel is a company we support women. So I don't have anything against men. It's just a passion of mine to be able to, because as women, we are underrepresented so many times. So the more we stand for ourselves, the better it will be. So I decided to advocate myself to stand for them. Even the one that doesn't like supporting other women. I meet them before. But it's fun. And I love what you are doing. The fact that you have a team as they're all women. It's fantastic. Like one day I wish I would have a team that's just women, because it's you get a chance to lift each other up. You got a chance to say it's okay. It's okay. Everything gonna be fine. Because sometimes as women we think that we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. Sometimes we feel like we are lost. Sometimes it's just us. It's just our nature. We want everything to be perfect, but unfortunately, we can't be that perfect because it doesn't exist. And sometimes too, we work for these corporations where we are take for granted. And I think that working for an upcoming business that's growing and be a part of it and see it growing and flourish, and then it's beautiful.
And you know what? I really appreciate that, because if you look at the stats, or statistics, as people say, you'll really see that in the past 5 years, 95% of businesses that started were women run. Many women have passion projects, hobbies that actually turn into billion-dollar industries, niche industries, and different things like that. But even more so, just as you said, in corporate America, and well, basically in any front, unfortunately, as most people know, when you're a woman, you don't necessarily advocate for yourself. So making sure that, you get the tools that you need, but also passing it on, it'll light a fire under people. And just recently, someone internally came to me, a woman, and said, well, since I have this new responsibility, I would love to get paid more. And I said, okay, so let's have that conversation. I wanted to see, as an HR professional, what the grounds were, what she would say, what kind of worked. And she put together this amazing presentation about where she came from, what she was doing, and why she deserved more money. And I sat back and I said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Advocation is something that we are sorely lacking because we don't get taught it. We are not the audience where they say, become your own, become a captain of industry, unfortunately. So when someone comes and actually says that, that's a spark. That is something amazing. And I find great joy in that, because there will be people to advocate for you, but you should be your advocate. Especially, like you said, as women, we do a lot. We come home, we, cook, we clean, we make sure to have a home that is representative of what we are right here. But we also go out there and do a bunch of other stuff and are amazing at doing it, no matter what industry we're in. And yet we still are the last to speak up for raises, to speak up for harassment, to speak up for bullying. And it's very unfortunate. And I'm trying within leadership training, within management and different circles that I sit in, to break those generational cycles, because that is the only way we're actually going to do it. And not only that way, but also in the groups that we inhabit, making sure that that is something that just catches fire and spreads.
And it's time, it's about time. It is time. We come from a long way, especially as Black. It's been a long journey. And I think that it's about time that we got some respect as women.
I couldn't agree more. And I also think that because of, the gains that women have made over the past, let's say 50 years, unfortunately, COVID wiped out a lot of them because of, the job and labor market, because of the societal shifts that so happened. Many millions were left unemployed. So now it is a bit of a grab back at trying to make, getting back up and climbing that rock again. It's a bit more slippery. It's a bit more treacherous. It's a bit more vertical for a lot of women. So any help, any resources, any circles that we can kind of inhabit and kind of move forward and mentor are even more important now than ever before.
Absolutely. I think that we can use all of the help we can get. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. We can use it. I don't think people realize that especially mothers, the one that we have children at home and they couldn't go to school anymore. So we end up being that mom that's 24 hours, no longer like have that 8 hours or 6 hours from school. We have to be the mom 24 hours, 7 days a week. But at the same time, also some of us lost our jobs, so we have to worry about the bills. And then some of us still have our jobs, so we need to work from home. So we have to explain to the kids, well, you can't come here while I'm working, so you have to go that way. So it's become really difficult for mothers. And I wish that a lot of companies will try to understand instead of just backstabbing us.
And you know what? It's also now people returning to work. It's almost like the reverse situation, right? Like you had kids that were homeschooled, you had mothers who were working from home or who lost their only means of, feeding their families and making ends meet. But now that the industries are kind of making a comeback and people are now either hybrid or expected to come back into work, we're now faced with a bit of a dilemma because, again, it does fall on the mother to make those arrangements, to be at home or to understand that. And so, yeah, women are definitely in a bit of a pickle that we were, 30 years ago. But once again, it's trying to climb back, making sure that, those sharp rocks don't get us. But I feel that women are resilient and we always find a way to make things work. It's just a matter of, like you said, being there for each other. Getting stronger networks is definitely key to making sure that, that it doesn't happen again, that women are not relegated to the home if they don't want to be. And, pushing past that, because there are some businesses that were made from the home. So that's definitely possible. But making sure that if you have to be out, that you do have a strong network to depend on.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that what you are doing is you're playing a big part of it already. So I think that just one of us cannot make this happen. Every time I get to talk to other women, it's like the pieces are closing, We're like, okay, she's fixing that little piece right here that was missing. The other one is, it's just beautiful. And it's amazing. I think that 20 years ago, I didn't see that. And now it's changing. It's growing. And I think that in 100 years, I can imagine how it's going to be. I probably won't be here to see it, but I can see it already in my head.
There you go. Never say never, but absolutely.
Absolutely. So what advice do you have for individuals who want to start their own business or make a positive impact in their community?
That's a great question. I would say that don't ever doubt that you can make any sort of impact. Many people are unfortunately told their whole lives that in order to be famous or in order to be, actually taken seriously, you can either do one of these three things. You can be an entertainer, an influencer, a sports person. That's definitely not true. You can become exactly what you need to become based on, your background, your stick-to-itiveness. There's something in all of us that makes us who we are, and we should never doubt it or take it for granted or leave it by the wayside because we think we can level up by doing something else. And I'm also a firm believer in, Bible truths because I am one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So I do believe that having a very strong sense of spirituality will also get you to a point where everything kind of centers in motion. Many people only focus on the work and life and how that works. But if you have a strong sense of spirituality and have that as your center and making sure that there's nothing else that clouds that, everything else falls into place around that.
Well said.
And you know what, as a business owner, also making sure that there is nothing necessarily wrong with starting a pie business or a hair business or a product business in your home. If you've dreamed it up and there is a viable market for it, take it somewhere. Even if it is a small business, it's your business. And that's the point. It's yours. Something that you can be proud of.
And trust me, it feels good when you can pay yourself out of it. When you're signing that check to yourself, it's like, I'm paying myself the same amount they were paying me to work 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Yeah, it really does. There is something to be said about that. It is a nice thing to have an accomplishment like that.
Yes, it is. So now looking ahead, what are your goals for Mesh Business Advisor and how do you see it evolving in the future?
Yeah, I am so happy and so blessed to have been able to not only expand with people, but also missions. I speak on behalf of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I do go to conferences and I do trainings on that. So I definitely see that expanding a bit more, because we still do need those pieces, emotional intelligence, helping managers understand, first-time managers especially, because we have individual contributors who the company says, wow, you're doing an amazing job. We're going to make you a manager of something and then give you employees. Those managers need help because they've never managed. So there is a bit of a need for that. And I do find that as an HR professional, having new leadership training and understanding the ever-changing world that we live in, especially in the US, is super helpful. On the finance end, just making sure that we become a resource for grant writing, for small business development, being a partner for any sort of financial systems that want to help small businesses here, is something that I'm actively working on, and having that proof of concept internally, but also pumping out different use cases and examples by, any sort of person that comes and says, hey, I want to be your customer. This is what I have. And then helping them level up will, word of mouth is super important. So we do get a lot of customer referrals, and helping, just growing that wider network is amazing to me. And, the bigger we get, the more I know, like, it's due to the fine work that we're doing, to our people, and to the concepts that we're like trying to level up on.
You have a big fight to go to.
Yes, I do.
But I don't have any doubts. You're going to go in as a warrior. You're going to get out as an even bigger warrior. So
there's
I have no
nobody
doubts.
that can do it but women. And I've got so many women behind me. It's really hard not to succeed.
It's powerful. When a group of women come together, you have no idea. That can turn to fire, and not the type of fire you ever seen on Earth. It's way stronger than that.
I couldn't agree more.
So now, where can our listeners find more information about you and Mesh Business Advisors?
That's a great question. So we do have a website. It's called meshbusinessadvisors.com. And, anyone that wants to, they can also check out our Facebook, our Instagram. We're actually in the second quarter coming out with a commercial that's going to run on Hulu ads. Ooh. So we're really trying to, move past the traditional platforms and really get into the wider audience. That's going to be a huge accomplishment. And I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how that goes. And I will say this, that the name MESH actually means the coming together of things. So it's human resources, finance, and operations, and how they mesh together. So kind of where that goes.
Ooh. So tomorrow is Women's History Month. That's when we start celebrating it. Don't get me wrong, we should be celebrating each other every single day, every second of our life. But we are grateful that the government decided to give us 1 month to take advantage on. So we're going to take it. We're going to run with it. So what advice would you have for women that are struggling to create something for themselves, or to build something, or even a legacy, whatever they want to do with their life?
I would say definitely don't give up. Many a dream has, someone had a great idea but didn't see a viability in it, and either sold it off to someone who made a lot of money off of it because they had the proper channels or the proper backing to do so. And, the person regrets it later. You try to live in a way that you don't have as many regrets, because regrets are like sitting in a rocking chair, going nowhere, but wearing grooves into the floor with the amount of energy you expend. Making sure that, only because you're not doing it right now doesn't mean that you won't be doing it in the future. Many of us have, right now mentality, but that's not how real life works. Many of us need to build something and start from years back. And then it goes through different iterations before it actually becomes the beautiful thing that it needs to be. It's just like a butterfly. You don't get a butterfly. It has to sit in a cocoon long enough to develop and to really become what it needs to become before it breaks out. So always think about your journey, your product, your service as that butterfly. It might not be right now, but it doesn't mean that it's not right for the future.
Thank you so much, Ebony. I appreciate the time the positive energy, and all the work that you are doing, and especially that. I know it wasn't intentional to have a staff that's 100% woman, but I appreciate that it happens because, especially with COVID, a lot of women lost their jobs and they have nothing to take care of the families, and then how they gonna feed the kid, how they gonna pay the rent that's coming up, and not to mention everything went up. I don't know why everything went up and our pay didn't go anywhere, so I'm not sure why that happened. So
sure doesn't feel like it.
Exactly. So I appreciate what you are doing. You're giving women a boost, and then we need that boost, and then you are creating an example, and that the next generation can follow. So keep going, keep moving forward, regardless what happened. We got your back.
Thank you so much. And that's exactly what we should be saying to all women in every network, because we do all need each other. I mean, as humans, we need each other for sure to lift each other up, but it's even more so for this little iteration right here.
Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.